What if I told you most students don't have a study problem, but an intention problem? They open a textbook, highlight a few pages, and watch a few YouTube videos and call that studying. Then they wonder, why can't they remember anything a week later? The problem isn't that they're lazy. The problem is they are studying without intention. In this video, I'm going to show you the framework that has completely changed the way I approach learning. It's called the PEQRA Framework, and by the end of this video, you'll understand how to make every study session count. A few months ago, I watched an incredible video by Saffana Combs on intentional reading. I'll leave the link to that video in the description because it has changed the way I look at learning completely. The points that she was discussing in her video was so brilliant to the point where it hit me that these are not only applicable for reading, for only personal development. So I adapted those ideas into a framework that I now use in every study session, and I called it PEQRA. PEQRA stands for Prepare, Engage, Question, Reflect, and Apply. Hear me out. This isn't a magic formula. It does not replace hard work, but it gives your hard work direction. So without wasting time, let's break it down and go through the steps on how you can integrate this into your own study session. In PEQRA, we first have the P, which means prepare. Before you open your textbook, stop and ask yourself these three main questions. What exactly am I trying to learn? What do I already know? What do I not understand? Most students skip this step. If I'm being honest, myself included, before this framework, I used to never do this at all. I would just open my textbook and study and hope everything sticks. But intentional students open their textbook looking for something specific. And guess what? There are studies supporting this, that everything that we choose to intentionally focus on, our brain will pick it up much more quickly. And if our brains are scattered when we study, then the information that we are trying to pick up will be scattered. I randomly come up to you and ask you, where is your comb in your room? You would most likely not be able to tell me. But if I tell you specifically, when you go into a room, go look for the comb and where it is and come back and tell me, you'd easily do so because your brain knows what it's looking for. Preparation tells your brain, pay attention, this information matters, and that simple shift changes everything. Now let's move on to E, which is engage. Now it's time to study. You should not read passively. Hold a pen, write some notes, ask yourself questions, highlight ideas intentionally. Your textbook isn't something to watch. Disagree with the notes if you have to, even if you know that very well within you that the points that you are disagreeing with are completely true. But studying should be a conversation. Connect the ideas to other subjects you've learned. I'm sure at some point in your life it has happened that when you're studying, you come across some information that you are able to connect to a different subject, but it only ever happens haphazardly. But now that should be your intention. And once you start to engage, you will find that you'll ask yourself more and more questions, which leads us to our next point, which is Q for questions. In you asking questions, your brain will want to find answers. Questions are what make learning stick. Because if you think about it, you go from a place of memorizing to discovering. Here's the funny thing about discovering. We tend to hold the information that we discover on our own very much more valuable than the ones that have been reiterated to us or memorized. Before we go into our next point, which is R for reflect, please reflect on which point has stood out to you this far in the comment section down below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And share this video with a friend who you think might enjoy it or find it useful. Reflection is where learning becomes understanding. When you're done studying that topic or that chapter, close your book and try to explain it in your own words. No notes, no highlighted points, just your own words. If you can't explain it, you probably don't understand it. Reflection also means connecting the ideas, like how was what I was studying today connected to what I studied yesterday? Where have I seen this before? How could I use this in a different subject? That's where real learning happens. And our last point is A for apply. Most students stop here when they finish studying and only revisit the information when they're about to write their exams. But information doesn't change your life. Application does. Application looks like doing past papers, practice questions, teaching a friend, and explaining concepts out loud, using what you have learned instead of just remembering it. Knowledge becomes valuable when it changes how you think or what you do. And this video is information, so hopefully it changes how you study. You see what I did there? On a much more serious note, the goal isn't to study longer, but to study with intention. That's what PEQRA is all about. If every study session follows these 5 steps, you're no longer just consuming, you're building understanding. And this is only the first episode of the Intentional Study System series. In the next episode, we'll be taking a much more deeper look at the first pillar, which is preparation. And I'll show you exactly how to prepare your brain before every study session. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing because this series is all about helping students become intentional learners and not just better test takers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.